All right, everyone. Welcome in. BetSports Golf here for our first look officially at the 2025 Masters. It is major championship season. It has arrived. I cannot be more excited to unpack this one this week. If you're hanging out with us for the first time, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, BetSports Golf. We'll have lots of different things here as well at BetSports Golf. On Twitter, you can find BetSports Golf Podcast where we listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, all those things. Go ahead and subscribe. We would really appreciate that. Lots of great content on the site. Get into some of that here today. But again, first look, let's look at the field. Let's look at the odds boards, talk about the course. It's nothing I can really tell you about the course that you don't know. Obviously, there were some, if you're following it all, we had some hurricanes, some bad weather that has impacted the course, though I don't think it's going to impact anything that we see on the course this year. I think some of the guys that are more familiar, they go there every year to play, noticed like a handful of trees here and there, talking about different shading and things like that. In terms of how the course is going to play, I don't think it's going to play any different in terms of that this year. Weather tends to be a situation every single year. We'll need to watch that here. Last year, we had a pretty significant wave advantage in terms of what we saw on Thursday, pretty significant, a softer course early. Some guys benefited from that. And then the winds really kicked up. I think we'll have wind again. Looks like we'll probably have rain here on Monday, but I don't think it's going to be anything like that in terms of, when we get into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Again, obviously, by the time we tee off on Thursday, the sub-air system that these greens have, not even the greens, the sub-air system all over the place, it will suck any of the moisture out. So I think we're going to have probably a more firm and fast Masters than we've had over the last couple of years. If you remember 2 years ago, we had a ton of rain. We had rain throughout the event. And then obviously the rain early Wednesday, Thursday last year. So I think we're going to have a little bit more baked out, firm and fast, which is interesting. And I think, as we typically always have, I think the wind will be a factor as well. When we get into some of that as well, we can look at that through the lens of the rabbit hole and how that's going to play out. So again, that's a little bit harder for me to get into the weeds on the wind 3.5 days, 4 days out from first tee time. But I think it's going to be a factor this week. But I think we'll have more firm and fast. But otherwise, nothing's really changed. Allegedly, they've redone multiple green complexes, but they've redone them to look exactly the same, basically just repairing some of the damage that happened from the storm. So let's jump into some stuff here. I'm going to share some of the exciting stuff that we have going on over at BetSports Golf. Homepage is popping already. I'm going to continue to have a lot more stuff here. Obviously leading up to the events here, I can see Ron's course preview or just event preview up on the site. Again, as extensive as you could possibly get. Really love, shameless begging for you to check out the Masters Players Guide at the top. It is absolutely my favorite thing to do every single year. A labor of love because it is definitely a beast of a project. Because again, if you're not familiar, seeing it for the first time, there's notes on everybody. We're not casually talking about some guys. We're getting in the weeds. You can see here current world golf ranking. Just take that with a grain of salt. Obviously, we got the live guys in here. It's funny to see where some of these guys are in the OWGR these days. Get their best finish at the Masters, their previous 5 finishes at the Masters as well. You can see Ludwig here. It doesn't pertain to him, just one and done. But then you get some more rabbit hole data specifically chopped out here, some charts and stuff that is shared for you. Here's some leans, so not a lot of here's my bet. But definitely if you're reading and doing some of the work here, you'd get a sense of some players that I would like. So you're pretty much getting, detailed charts for almost everyone in the field. You're getting a little bit right up, multiple paragraphs on all the AMs. We're going to break down these markets as well. Low AM, already made a bet this morning on low senior, which I think is a pretty nice price. I think there should be a clear favorite. There should be maybe a little even more of a favorite than he currently is. There's a bet to be made here, but really, if you have not seen this, would really appreciate you taking the time. Again, don't expect everyone to go cover to cover. It is a massive, massive thing to read. We're pushing almost 20,000 words here. But if you're looking to make DFS decisions, or you're considering a couple guys, go in there, take a look. You could break some ties in here as well, for sure. Just kind of going through it and looking at it. So, looking at strokes gained majors, strokes gained Augusta National, long golf courses, strong fields, long golf courses, difficult scoring conditions. All those different things are captured in here for you too. We'd love for you to take the time to kind of jump in. Let's take a look at the odds board. Shout out to our friends over at FanDuel. Again, shopping is going to be a big thing this week. Obviously, it should be for any week that you're betting golf. Take the time to shop through things a little bit. Price matters. You're going to have some unique markets this week, some stuff you don't see. You'll have some stuff earlier. You can see here, even on FanDuel, you win only markets. Those are going to be available everywhere. You're going to have a handful of books, depending on your state, that have each way betting options. Those will be a little bit more vast than normal as well. You'll see more position offerings and all those different things. And you'll have, I think, multiple books getting into the without markets. When we have two guys at the top here, with Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy sucking up a lot of the perceived win equity in the market in terms of where they are priced, the implied probabilities here, having some options that take them off the board obviously change the price dynamic, but you don't have to worry about sweating Scheffler on Sunday or Rory on Sunday. So you can go even FanDuel here. You can see, they have multiple. We have without Scotty market, without Rory and Scotty market. And then what they deem to be kind of the top five here is Scotty, Scotty, Rory, Colin, Rahm, and Ludwig market. So again, your prices are significantly different, but you don't have to worry about those guys. Let's take a look. You can see here, just looking this, Xing all these guys out. Interesting that Xander not in that market. Bryson not in that market. So I think those guys would be, I don't know about Xander in terms of his popularity this week. I don't think he'll be that popular either in the betting markets or in DFS, just given, the kind of uncertainty around form and rust, with obviously him missing a good chunk of time with the hip injury. But Bryson, I think, just a popular click. Basically, anytime we get the chance to bet on Bryson, it would have been even shorter if he would have closed the door in Miami this weekend. Was not able to do that here. But again, just shop. There's hard to kind of encapsulate all this on an odd screen because the markets are so different and books have unique stuff. So just take the time. You'll be able to shop around and make sure that you get best price available for all these different things. Hate leaving equity on the board, but just in terms of actual 2-win markets, no without markets, basically Scotty anywhere between like 4-1 to 450, 460. Rory kind of painted across the board at 650 for the most part. You see Rahm, nice showing in Miami. Couldn't close. I thought we would have him here if he did close. Interesting to me that Rahm is kind of moved and gotten a little bit shorter, even though he kind of faltered a little bit. They were on Sunday in Doral. He's 14 here on FanDuel. Again, you'll find, I think, upward to 16 or 17 out in the marketplace. Ludwig, second here as a debutant last year. Really unusual for someone to come here in their first go-around and have a really strong finish. We haven't had a debutante win here since, I think, Fuzzy Zeller in 79, if I'm not mistaken, if that's the correct year. I know it's fuzzy. I think it was 79. But, I think we had a nice Spieth debut here. I think he was T2, win T2 in his first 3 years, which is a really nice showing, but kind of unusual for Ludwig to do what he did last year. You can see he's at 16 here. I think there's some 20s out there on Ludwig. Colin, nice showing last year until, believe it or not, Sunday, which, that's something that Colin will need to answer. You can see Xander, 18, Bryson, 20, JT at 22, Neiman, 28. Seems really short. I know hopefully you just like opportunities last year, if you took some early Neiman, I know people are holding bigger future numbers on a lot of these guys, and because the Masters is up basically right away. Like, you'll be able to bet on the 2026 Masters almost immediately after this one is over. So waiting for some of the reshuffling to happen this morning, because obviously those prices basically only get shorter, in the future market. You're not seeing a lot of guys readjust to get bigger. Hideki, obviously a previous winner, 28. Brooks, 30. Spieth, 33. Tommy, 35. Lowry, 35. I can see Lowry being a little bit popular this week. I think he could be an interesting bet. Hovland coming off of a win. Last time we saw him at Valspar, 35. Cantley there, 35. Hatton, not carrying over some of that form that we saw in the fall, and then early in the season there, and in some of the, and not even early live events, but some of the DP World Tour stuff that Hatton was getting real short. He's out there at 40 at a course that he absolutely despises. You can see a pretty significant teardrop post Hatton here. We jumped down to Bobby Mack at 55. That's kind of collapsed over the last month or so, significantly shorter. There were larger numbers on Bobby Mack for BetSports Golf subscribers. I played Bobby Mack 85 a couple weeks ago when he was kind of tearing it up on the DP World Tour. Nice fit for him. He's played well here in 2 previous stops. Lefties are favored, typically shot shape wise at Augusta. We've seen Mike Weir, Bubba Weir win here twice. We've seen obviously Phil has 3 green jackets. In the last 20 years or so, we've seen a number of lefties play pretty good golf. Russell Henley, 55. Interested to see where Russ is in terms of popularity. T4 here a couple of years ago, which surprised a lot of people. Russ, below average. I mean, in terms of actually in this field, he is significantly below average in terms of driving distance. And that does matter here quite a bit. As a long golf course that plays even longer than the yardage, which is, about a little, almost 7,600 in terms of what the yardage book will tell you. Elevation changes impact that massively. Wind will impact that massively. And they mow the grass in the fairways here in a way that really minimizes roll up. So carry distance really matters here. That's harder for Russell Henley. We do have, instances of, with Zach Johnson in a weird weather year, playing the par 5s as 3-shot holes, and that distance didn't matter too much. But that's a tricky thing for Henley. Obviously just won at Bay Hill a couple weeks ago. Another really long golf course where distances historically really matter. So, Russ is kind of fighting that, which I think is pretty interesting. Min Woo Lee obviously won last time out. Distance, no problem for Min Woo. 55. Again, that's gotten significantly shorter since what we saw from him in Houston. Will Zalatoris, great course history here. Same thing for Cam Smith out there at 60. Really, Cam Smith came in last year with really poor form. T6 here. So, kind of the wizardry, strokes gained, magic beans, I think matters here. And Cam Smith is one of those guys that has a lot of it. Akshay, significantly shorter. There's some bigger numbers still on Akshay. Again, they got a 120 from December on Akshay. Kind of the lefty narrative, ball striking, lots of different ways that make him pretty interesting. Corey Connors, last couple years not as great, but course history here, sneaky good. A lot of top 12s, top 10 finishes for Corey Connors. Same thing for Finau. He's been in the mix here often, 75. Jason Day out at 80. Wyndham Clark as well. Sepp at 80. It's a pretty big number on Sepp. I don't know that I see Sepp Straka winning the Masters. I also don't think he should be 80. So that's a really tricky thing to do. So that becomes take advantage of his finishing position price on a book that's offering an 80, because there's some correlation in terms of how those are priced in relation to the win. Or maybe in each way. If you definitely wanted Sepp in a to win ticket, I'd consider each ways if you have that as an option. I guess domestically, Bet 365, Bet Rivers, if that's a thing for you, where you'll be able to capture, an X number of finishing positions and still have some of the equity that could come with a win. Dustin Johnson showed a little bit of a pulse in Doral. Sergio's been playing really good golf there as well. So Patrick Reed. Thigala's lost a little bit in the woods, but has played well here in the past. And you get another teardrop down into Keegs, Tom Kim, Rose, Sanjay Berger, Harmon coming off of a win last week. Fitz has great course history here, but is not playing good golf at all. Adam Scott, a past winner. Burnsy's lost. So you can see down here in terms of, some real bombs. This definitely would be a place that I would play each ways if you had them available to you. But again, shop around here. Unique field, right? We are looking at, I think we have 96 golfers in the field right now, which is bigger for the Masters. I think last year we were mid 80s. But, when you look at to make the cut bets or, finishing position bets, you got to take it with a grain of salt. I don't think they're always priced really well. Or I think they're priced pretty well sometimes on a Monday. They'll get a little bit sharper as you start to see more content around them, people talking about it. But top 15 ties will make the weekend. And then we got 5 amateurs, right? You probably see 1, maybe 2 make the cut. You got a bunch of older guys. Let's get down here towards the bottom of the board, right? You got some previous winners, because again, if you win a Masters, like Jose Maria Olazabal or Couples or Mike Weir or Bernhard Langer in his last Masters, they get to come here and tee it up all the time. Angel Cabrera, fresh out of jail, twice, Argentina and Brazil. He's here this week after a win yesterday on the Champions Tour to get himself in good form. Zach Johnson, previous winner Danny Willett, has popped here randomly in the past. Bubba, has not been competitive in almost 30 live starts, not finding the top 20 in a 54-man field. So you can really kind of cross off some guys that would be very surprising for them to make the cut. And then you have some other tour pros that are, either debutantes, poor fits, or in pretty terrible form. Cam Davis, I think, has missed like 4 or 5 starts in a row. Grayserman struggled a little bit recently. Eckroat has not been dialed in. Chris Kirk can't make a putt. Nick Dunlap has been awful. He's like losing a stroke per round off the tee for like the last 2 months. It's been really, really poor. What does Matt McCarty do here as a debutante? Pavon was a shocking top 12 last year, but has really not great form. Tristan Lawrence, no form. Zach Johnson's not doing anything. Brian Campbell, as like a average T-ball of like 270 something yards, like not really competitive here, where distance matters a ton. Then you get into some of these AMs with Beck and Hastings. Rafael Campos has missed the cut in like 13 out of 15 events leading up to his win, and then has missed the cut a bunch since. Has been like pretty terrible. So you cross off a bunch of these names. Maybe 1, maybe 2 sneaks in to make a cut, but now you're dealing with a field that's like maybe 70, 75 guys who top 50 in ties. So there's some opportunities here in terms of some early prices and how to bet it. So again, if you have a lot of options in terms of each ways, continue to harp on that. I think it's a nice spot for it, because obviously you're going to get worse odds than not just to win, but some guys that could be really non-competitive even and backdoor top 10 here, because just the nature of the event. So worth taking a look at here. Check that out. All right. I want to look at this here too. Let's look at the course database. We have more info on the course than we've had in years past. We're slowly getting there. Strokes gained has been kind of a slow burn at Augusta National over the years, but we have more now than we used to, which is great here. But you get the details. You can see par 72, long course, 75, 55 stretched out from the tips, plays longer than that. As I mentioned, elevation changes, the way the fairways are mowed. Bent grass greens, unique to Georgia, but that's what we have here. Very fast. And I think we're going to get these playing fast all week. Again, with a combination of wind, but just the firm, dry conditions that I think we expect for tournament play. You're going to have some real fast greens. Driver heavy. Rough is not really a problem. It's kind of a grip it and rip it. It is, second shot. It is navigating the green complexes. It is figuring out how to scramble off the short grass here, which is very, very difficult. So while it is easy to gain off the tee, it's easy to find the fairway. It is still very difficult to gain on approach. Again, fairway, yes, but side hill lies, ball above your feet, ball below your feet. Real challenge, especially when you start to add wind into the mix in terms of making sure that your carry distance and stuff like that is dialed in terms of, keeping the ball pin high and stuff like that is very, very challenging to gain on approach here. Around the green, very difficult because we have these shaved runoffs where it is, difficult to hold these firm and fast greens, especially this is where the distance comes into play. Because not just off the tee, it is, apex on that second shot, because you can reach the green theoretically, but if you're having to get there with a 4-iron, holding that is significantly harder, even for these elite tour pros, versus say you had a 7-iron in your hands, right? Where you can hit it a little bit higher, have it land a little bit softer and not get the rollout. If you're having to take a hybrid in, 3-4 iron in, some of these guys are hitting, 7 woods these days or whatever they're playing, these hybrids, but it's just harder to hold. So this is another area where distance matters a ton. Very difficult to putt because you can get on these greens and be on the wrong spot based off of, having to navigate some pretty tricky terrain. This is why you see course history as sticky as any place here at Augusta National. Some corollary comp courses for you if you would like. But when you get into where there are opportunities on the course to make low numbers, it's going to be the par fives. These are a really long set of par fours. As you can see, the fifth hole, almost 500 yards. A lot of 450 plus, 460, 495, 520, 440, 440, 465 to finish. So a lot of red numbers. These holes are playing above par. Your par fives are pretty much your only green spots here, other than the third hole. But because again, it's a really short par four relative to the rest of them. You got to make some hay on the par fives and kind of hold on and not blow up on the par fours. So really, really difficult set of par threes as well. You can get into this. This is where we kind of, in terms of where we would typically be, we have a little more course metrics. We get less data from Augusta National than any other course, obviously. But I think we have everything that we could possibly have that's available to us that we've been trying to scour through the internet over the last 12 months, and obviously a lot over the last month or so to make sure that we have as much data. So we do have driving accuracy rates, good drive rate, but some of the other stuff we're not seeing quite as much. But we knew it was a driver heavy golf course. In terms of approach, see we get greens and reg. Greens and reg last year, 66.7% from the fairway. That's tough. Even though, the rough isn't penal in terms of rough penalty, the short rough from the first cut, but we see, look at that drop. It is like 15% below tour average greens and reg from the rough. Because again, even though it's not super penal, it's just hard to control the ball flight. And controlling your ball, it seems so simple, but controlling ball flight is just paramount to success at Augusta National. You have to be able to have control of your golf ball. That's why recent form matters. Just not hitting greens from the rough here. So again, we don't have all of these different things here. Same thing with some of the approach shot distribution. But we know a lot of long irons just based off of the hole lengths here. A lot of long irons into your long par fours and par fives. Are those going to be 2-shot holes for you? That's an advantage if you can take on that risk and you happen to even hold the green, being able to maybe lag putt for a birdie versus someone having to stick a wedge from 125 into the right quadrant of the green to be able to give themselves a birdie look. It's an advantage to be there in two. So you can see scrambling rates below tour average. Scrambling from the short grass is below tour average as well. Ron's got some of this in his preview. But I don't want to give away the goods for subscribers. Some of that is in there as well. If you're not a subscriber, though, got some great deals right now. Let's just talk about that real quick. Just a couple of them right here on the page. This just went live. If you do not have an MGM account, or I don't know, maybe you do. Maybe your significant other doesn't. Maybe that's something to take advantage of. Follow the directions here. Sign up for BetMGM. Deposit and bet $10. That's all you got to do. Deposit and bet $10 on MGM. New MGM accounts. And then you'll get an email within 24 hours of how to get access to BetSports Golf for free for a year. 365 days. So not through the end of the season, a full calendar year. You do it now, you'll basically get the run up to next year's Masters as well. Obviously, details here on the site. If you just a little bit cheaper, maybe you have an MGM deal or MGM's not available in your states. We partner with Drafters, and you can get a quarterly subscription. So 90 days of BetSports Golf. Same thing, $10 deposit and play on Drafters. They have pick'em games. They have 4-man golf, that you could do for your drafts. They obviously have best ball draft for the NFL. That's just a 90-day sub, same $10 deposit and play for Drafters, or you can get the full free year through MGM. It's a fantastic deal. So click on the link. It's free in the site. Let me know if you have any questions. Reach out directly at Ryan Noonan on Twitter, at BetSports Golf on Twitter. Hop in the DMs. We'll help you out and get started there. And again, maybe you already have one. Maybe your significant other doesn't. Maybe your parents don't, or your in-laws, or your sister, or your brother. Check it out. Maybe they don't want to take advantage of that BetSports deal. They want to bet the Masters. Help them out. Give them a bet. Then take advantage of their free year to the site. Great deal. I mean, that's it. No loopholes. No extra money. No more additional costs. It is deposit and play $10 on MGM, and you get in. I don't know what else to say. Sick deal. Putting. We don't get a ton of putting stats here from Augusta National, but we got a few. 3-putt avoidance. Look at this. I mean, this is almost double PGA Tour average event here. A little over, basically 4.25% 3-putt, which is significant. You can see here, greens and right putting average, pushing almost 2 flat, which is also a jump above a PGA Tour event as well. Lower 1-putt average as well. So some of the stuff that we do have here, we do have more scoring. You can see it played a little bit harder last year comparatively. Again, we had some wet conditions in 2023. You see, obviously, playing above par consistently over the last 5 years. Birdie or better rate, about 5% less than tour average as well. You see the bogey rate spikes. You're seeing right around 6-7% above average, rate there too. And PM, I don't think there's anything predictive in terms of AM PM stuff. It's all going to be weather based off of that previous year. So I don't, nothing really actionable based off of, anything trending there. You can go ahead and check that out. And then par 3, par 4, par 5 scoring. You can see here, par 3s relatively flat. A lot of pars, not a lot of birdies to be made there. See, par 4 scoring is above average with a 6% drop in birdie rate on par 4s. Par 5 scoring, again, lower than tour average. But again, that is the place for you to go ahead and get it done. You saw last year 35.9% par 5 birdie rate, which is almost 10% below what we typically see on a tour event. And then we see basically where the scores were. And this is what I was talking about, where especially when you're looking at finishing positions or each ways, you have a guy that was kind of not really competitive in terms of like actually winning the golf tournament, that can cash a nice top 10 for you. Like Cam Smith was not really in play last year. We see Cam Smith T6, 2 under. Just pretty solid little rounds of golf. Xander not really in play last year. Even got you inside the top 10. Zalatoris, Cam Young, Tyler Hatton, all even par and cashed the top 10. So unique. When you look at Scotty at 11, you see again, Rahm was at 12, 10 for Scotty and Hideki in the previous years. That's kind of the winner. For the most part, you got guys kind of hovering right around even, a little bit better than even. And that gets you, inside the top 10. So remember that when you're trying to think about what we can get to, get a winner. A couple interesting things that are a jump out here when we're looking at the last year top 10. Again, Ludwig, would have seemed to be not involved after day one, because it's tricky. Not a place where you typically can post below average number on round one and then come back. It's a tough place to chase because there just aren't a lot of birdies out there. You start chasing, you start forcing it, and that's not what you really want to be here. But Ludwig, played really good golf on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and got himself in the mix. Homa, 4 under, great opening round here last year. T3. I mean, my dude is lost right now. It is rough for Max and really tough to watch, to be honest. I mean, last year, this T3 was his best major finish ever. Was coming off a solid finish the year before in the Open Championship because you had this like, oh, okay, Homa's making his way in the top 15, top 20 of the world, but he's not really ever competitive in a major. And then kind of figured it out a little bit. Seemed to have figured it out a little bit, but like nothing since. This had him at 8 in the world after his T3. And then not really sure what happened. He has not made a cut in an event with a cut since last July's Open Championship. He's now missed the cut in 5 straight after missing the cut in San Antonio. He broke up with his caddy, Joey Grenier. They've been together forever. They're like childhood friends. He is fighting it right now. So really tough to see Homa there as well. Colin, I mean, look, he's got to answer this question. Round 4 question. Do I think Colin Morikawa can't close? No, I don't believe that. But I do believe that there is something to his current inability to figure it out on Sundays. It's just always his worst round. So that's a challenge for him, especially if he's in contention or he's needing to chase. It just hasn't really worked out. Tommy Fleetwood is playing insane golf. He's just playing bonkers. So consistently good. Just something like a string of 15, 16 starts in a row where he's just in the top like 20, top 22, and just always in the mix. But is he threatening to win? No, he's not. Bryson can be really popular. I don't want to tell you to not bet on Bryson if that is your guy this week and you like the number and that's your thing. The 65 in round 1, I think is kind of fake. He got out early. The course was soft, and relative to the rest of the day, there was no wind. And he took advantage of it. Played his best round basically at Augusta National. But do I think that's real? I don't. I think the single length irons on and around, I guess, not on the greens, but around the greens. And he was a good bunker player. But the chipping demand here is just different. It just is. It's why you see some of these guys that, Phil, Cam Smith, Spieth, Patrick Reed, just guys that are Scotty, really just insane with their hands on and around the greens. It matters a ton here. Chipping off a short grass is not like chipping from a thick, rough apron around the green that, Bryson can do at a US Open or a PGA Championship. It's just tougher here. And I think people are going to fall in love with 65 last year, and he was in the mix, but he really wasn't. 73, 75, 73. Just felt like no real threat. And Bryson, not a consideration for me whatsoever in the outright market. I would really massively need to see improvements. I'll show you maybe some of the data that's backing that up here over the last couple of years. So again, helpful to look here because it is a spot where course history matters maybe more than anywhere else. All right, let's jump into some of the data that I want to show you here specifically through the rabbit hole. I'm going to make myself disappear so we can see all this here on YouTube a little bit better and get all the data. All right. If you're seeing this for the first time, this is the Rabbit Hole. It is our officially licensed PGA Tour database where you can look at anything you could possibly imagine. But then you can also look at it through the lens of, I think, conditions that matter a lot. If you're just looking at recent form, that is great because I think recent form matters a ton. But, Kevin Yu, Nico Echeverria, Joe Highsmith, these guys aren't playing in all of the signature events. So, strokes gained it's a metric per round relative to the fields. When the field's not the same, it's really hard to compare apples to apples. So being able to look at conditions where you can look at difficult scoring conditions, looking at long golf courses, looking at strong field events. Those things matter. So I think, I know the Rabbit Hole does a insane job allowing you to kind of contextualize a ridiculous amount of data that we have here through the PGA Tour and all of the official stuff that we can get. So again, you want to look at specific green surfaces. We're on bent grass greens. They're going to be very fast. You can do all sorts of stuff like that. You want to look at specific, rough length or, off the tee. We know it's driver heavy. So looking at, driver heavy off the tee and who performs well from a ball striking standpoint, you can look at it that way. We know it's difficult to gain on approach. So you can look at just events. You want to look at ball striking through the lens of difficult and very difficult approach buckets. These are important things this week. So, being able to just look at it through a proper lens, the proper context is super important. Also, wind, I think is something that's going to matter to look at this week. Modeling it is tricky. Wind data in itself is tricky. I think we have a pretty good process in terms of how we classify it, capturing it for a while the guy is on the course, not just the wind that day and maybe he missed it. So that's, something that we try to spend some time with here too, so I think it's going to matter this week. So again, Rabbit Hole, great way to do it. But let's look at a couple of things that I think are really important first. How do you perform in majors? That matters. I know Ron's going to have a trends piece for us later. I think that might be on Golf Digest for us as well. Shout out to our friends over at Golf Digest. I can use promo code Golf Digest for 25% off of any subscription if you don't want to take advantage of some of the other deals. But Ron's going to have that, some of the trend stuff. Trends, I'll be honest, some of it's really noisy to me. I don't get super into trends. I do think this is probably the one event that it does matter a little bit more in terms of where its spot is on the calendar, some of the lead-in form, and then just course history, because it is the one major that comes to the same spot every year. The course itself is unique. Obviously, the magnitude and all the things that go on with it, I think, are a little bit different. So there are a lot of leading indicators that would tell you why Augusta National course history matters more. But I also want to see, how do you perform in majors? So let's start. We'll look at majors last 3 years and see who performs the best. This obviously allows us to look properly at all the live guys, because most of those guys are in those fields as well. We'll look at average strokes gained data. You can look at rank. You can look at total strokes gained. I also like to look at percentage of rounds gained. Gets you a little bit more of a floor, consistency, understanding there. So look, last 3 years, average strokes gained at a major. Probably no surprise, Scotty Scheffler at the top, Rory McIlroy second. Not a huge gap. Actually, it's really Scotty, Rory, Xander over the last 3 years, comfortably close to 2.5 and above total strokes gained. You can see Scotty doing that while losing almost 0.2 strokes per round on the greens. You see Colin not too far behind at 2. Smaller sample for Will Zalatoris, but Will Zalatoris just shy of 2 strokes per round at majors over the last 2 years, which is interesting to see. Thomas Dietrich, probably a name you would not expect. He gets a lot of it done typically, well, everywhere really through putting. You could see he's by far the best putter in this bunch, almost a stroke per round on a 20-round sample of where he's got it done, which I think is really interesting to see. Ludwig, we only have in his major starts last year. Part of that too, the PGA, he was not healthy. Valhalla, he's still dealing with that knee injury, which I think really made an impact there. So you can see not great, but not awful for a guy who's just getting started here. Great Masters. Tommy and Lowry, appropriately right next to each other, to be honest. I mean, just terrific golfers. No weakness in their game, really. Maybe Lowry doesn't hit it as far as you would want. Tommy, sneakier distance than you would expect. Just don't win. It's just really, really hard. And again, it does not mean that I don't think they can win, but man, it'd be wild for Tommy to break his his U.S. dry streak by taking home a major and a Masters. Just be insane. John Rahm, rough, uneven major season last year. Cam Smith, again, will lose on approach. I mean, off the tee. Approach number is actually pretty good. But, the short game stuff, which matters here more than anywhere, has been really good. Hovland right here. Cantley right here. Cantley cannot figure out these greens in particular, but, consistent golf. So this is, I think, a pretty good leading indicator of, your top guys. Grayson 4 rounds. That doesn't count. You could put in a minimum round feature up here if you wanted to pull that stuff out. You can see Bryson, Fitz, Cam Young, Henley, Hideki, Minwoo Lee, Spieth down here. These guys are basically right above or right at a stroke per round. Brooks Koepka, probably surprising to people, right? Like, he's a dog, big game hunter, all those things. Last 3 years, it's been kind of average. I mean, he's gaining stroke, so he's above average, right? But he's not necessarily been the guy that, steal your girl, Brooks, from their early teens and whatnot. Looking at inverse to see who's performed poorly. Most of these guys are probably going to be small sample. Yeah, Vegas is a small sample. Olafable is just giving us his missed cuts here. Same thing for a lot of these guys. In terms of Tour Pros, bigger sample. Nick Taylor, Daniel Berger, Phil, small sample. Phil playing good golf. You cannot argue. Like, third at Singapore. I went off at like 400 to 1 in threatened that one, and then was in the mix last time out this past weekend at Doral. Unfortunate, like, great chip, hit the pin and dove into the water. He fell off, but Phil playing much better golf than this would indicate. You could see here, some of these other guys that have played in majors and have not played particularly well. Again, this is harder. Strokes gain stuff here in this, relative to this field is harder because it's a great field, right? So that matters a ton. So that's strokes gained majors over the last 3 years. Again, you can look at all rounds. You can go in here and look at all records. You can look at 5 years, look at any sample that you want to kind of capture that data. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to go and look at, I'm going to go all rounds, but I want to look at Augusta National. Augusta National strokes gain data. We'll look at the last, we'll look at all rounds. Because again, we don't have all rounds. We have a lot of it. If you ever want to see what rounds are being pulled into the data set too, this blue number here for rounds, you can click into it and it'll take you specifically to the rounds that it's talking about. So like if you want to look at Scotty's 20 rounds here, this is going to just show you what we're looking at. So this is just Scotty's rounds at Augusta. So you can see out of his 20 rounds, he's gained strokes in 18 of the 20 rounds played. It's pretty good. You can see last year, the first round, he gained 7.5 strokes on the field, which is just, again, playing in a little bit harder side of the draw. And then, was real competitive. So gained at least 3 strokes in all of his rounds. The year before, when he won, we had a bad round too, where he lost almost 2 strokes, but still was able to hold on and win, which is impressive. But again, he won by margin last year. He won by 4 shots. So really impressive. You can see multiple rounds here of Scotty gaining, 7 rounds or 7 shots. It's just really impressive. So if you want to, again, get that data, you just click into that little blue section. It'll tell you the rounds. But here we are. All right. Masters, Augusta, strokes gains. Ludwig, again, 4 rounds. Last year was his debut. Basically 3.5 strokes gained on the field. Scotty on a 20-round sample, 2.69 strokes. And you can see where they're getting it done, right? Like Ludwig lost strokes around the green, which is kind of what he's been doing a little bit this year too, and still was able to be pretty competitive because the ball striking was outstanding. Zalatoris, pretty awesome. Only 12 rounds, but 2.5 strokes per round. Again, Zalatoris, not a great putter, but even when he was a really bad putter, right? Even when, I mean, he's still not a good putter for being honest, but the Zalatoris that would like, it'd be really painful when they would zoom in and show you like that little tap in 2-footer. They would be like so unsteady on the back and then coming through. Even that version of Zalatoris was a really good lag putter. So it wasn't just that he necessarily showed up here and kind of found it for a couple of days. He's always been a really good lag putter. And I think that's kind of what we're looking at here, where he's been, you need that here, right? The approach putting, basically, where you leave yourself a real makeable second. He's been really good at that. Spieth, historically, he's lost strokes putting here slightly. But again, on average, 40 rounds, gaining over 2 strokes. Rahm's played well here, gaining across the board. Morikawa, 20-round sample, gaining across the board. Phil, massive sample, obviously. 76 rounds here. This is Masters number 29 or 30 for Phil, which is insane. And he's been awesome. Adam Schenk and Matthew Pavone, very surprising top 12 finishes last year in their debuts. You can see Pavone, lost strokes on approach, but still got it done here, whereas Schenk gained across the board, which is interesting. Rose played here a lot. Middling results. A lot of his work has been done with the putter here. Rory, 58 rounds. He is on average losing 0.3 strokes on approach at the Masters, which is interesting. Part of the swing changes and some of the good play of Rory this year has been approach based. So again, this is, I think useful data because course history matters a lot here, but in terms of just historically, one round or, one event, 2 to 4 rounds played in an annual sample makes this kind of challenging. So I think it's important, but I think Roy's obviously more dialed in with his approach than he's been before. 32 rounds of Cam Smith is gaining 1.42 strokes per round. Pretty solid. Off the tee has been a problem. His misses are bad, right? But look at this. Around the green, his short game, he's gaining 1.71 strokes per round on and around the greens. And that's going to get it done. Like, that is really, really good and really important here. Xander, surprise miscut 2 years ago here, but has also had a couple of stops where he's been in the top 5. So pretty good for him. Højgaard, 4 rounds last year, was in contention a little bit and then faltered on the weekend. Hideki's a past winner, 50 rounds. Bobby Mack's been here twice, has a T12 and a T23. Around the green, on the greens have been pretty nice. Brooks has been competitive here, has not won. Cam Young, good luck with that if that's your thing. Not for me, but 10 rounds, played pretty well. Patty Reed gaining across the board, 40 rounds. DJ, 50 rounds. Putter's been a problem. You can see the same thing for Justin Thomas. Putter's been a problem here. The rest of it's been pretty good. Again, it's got those hands around the green that we like too. You want to see who's struggled here. Again, let's see. Michael Kim, Jaeger, only 2 rounds, doesn't count. Old Thabel's killing himself with his recent play, obviously. Decent if we were to grab his prime. Not a huge sample of relevant guys. Again, some of these longer guys have hurt themselves. Horschel likes to putt here. That's about it. You can say the same for Brian Harmon. Hatton. There's a lot of things that would make me think this would be a good course fit for Hatton. He hates it here. He says he hates it here. T9 last year, which is surprising. He doesn't think the golf course and the setup is fair. Like, I just don't know how you get that out of your head. I think he probably doesn't get it out of his head. You can see Ben Ann. The putter's been a problem, but the rest of it's been pretty good here. But that's sometimes just Ben Ann in general. Burns, non-factor in majors historically. Keys, pretty average. Again, this is where you get into the spots. Here's Bryson, right? This is what I'm talking about. 28 rounds. He is losing basically a full stroke per round on and around the greens. It's just not competitive. Matters here. You can't fake that. Off the tee, yeah, he's going to gain massively with his distance. Maybe he's going to have a good approach week, so the ball striking is going to be good. But really, outside of last year's first round, it has been a problem for Bryson. and I just don't think it's solved. So no interest there for me. And again, like DFS game theory wise, feel like he's kind of an easy fade. Like he can win this golf tournament. I'm not saying he can't, but there's nothing in the data that tells me that he's going to. There's nothing in his recent form that makes me think that he's fixed this problem. We saw some chili dips at Miami, Doral. Like I still have questions about the short game. Let's see, Minwoo, middling results. Cantley, here's the one that I think is really interesting. Playing good golf, fairly competitive. He hasn't won since Caves Valley 2.5 years ago at this point. But again, he's around. He's in the mix. But he is a high baseline putter historically. He cannot do it here. 0.6 strokes lost per round average on 28 round sample at Augusta. Like that to me is something. Like it just makes me hesitant to click on that name when he just seems to have trouble navigating the greens here. Cabrera, most of his stuff pre-jail was pre-strokes gains. We don't have any of that. See, Connors has played well here. Course history, you mentioned that a little bit. Last couple of years, not as good. Same thing for Adam Scott, previous winner here. Fitz is lost, I think, but nice course history, getting mostly done with the putter. Surprised to see that he's losing around the green here. Another reason to stay away from Fitzy right now. Again, another caddy change there. Get Foster off the bag, and just, a lot of unknowns there as well. Hovland surprisingly not hemorrhaging strokes around the green here historically, just 18 rounds, but that hasn't been great. So you can go ahead and comb through this. I think it's a really, really interesting way to kind of go through things this week. Looking at, again, how do you play here historically? How have you played in majors? If you're modeling, I think those are really, really important pieces to what you would want to see here. That matters to me. They're pretty significant pieces to the model build for me this week. So that's it for me for now. I'll have picks on the site. Again, made one pick in a low senior market currently this morning. I think Phil's too short. Phil minus should be shorter, minus 110. That's available, I think, on FanDuel, Caesars, Bet365. Phil minus 110, low senior. It's burn on longer. Angel Cabrera, Mike Weir, VJ Singh, Olazabal. Philip still playing, I think, significantly competitive golf, more than some of those other guys are. VJ's playing more on the Seniors Tour, Champions Tour, and is having some success. We saw, obviously, Cabrera won last week. But I think Phil is just still kind of, in terms of where he's at in his game, I think just at a different level. So I'll lay the 110 on Phil, low senior. Check out the rabbit hole. Again, great deals on the site right now for you to check it out. Again, quarterly through drafters for $10 deposit and play, free year at BetMGM. The best deal we'll have for the next calendar year. Again, $10 full year. A year right now is $250. So you're going to get it for a $10 deposit and play on MGM. Again, you might have one. Maybe your significant other doesn't. Maybe a friend who likes to casually bet or bet the Masters. Hey, I'll give you a Masters bet. Let me use the email code that comes to you, right? After you do this, you're going to get a code emailed to the account email that you used to sign up for BetMGM. That's going to show you how to access the site and get it for no additional charge. So no questions. Again, BetSports Golf is the code. Take advantage of that. Again, if you use the links here on the article on the site, it'll take you right there. So appreciate you hanging out with me today. Again, subscribe before you take off. You come back on Tuesday for the betting show. Myself and Andy Molliner will probably build a model. I'll talk more about specific bets that we've made. We'll get into some of the obviously unique bets and offerings that we have here this week. At BetSports Golf on Twitter, we'll have a lot of unique Twitter-only content, more videos from myself, kind of previewing different ways to use the rabbit hole to build the models this week. So appreciate you hanging out with me today. Go over to the site,